things not seen. So that is the definition of faith. So I'm going to give you 5 examples and those in the Bible, and those people had faith on God. The first one is David. So David was just a young boy, and his family didn't think he could fight or anything, but he had faith on God that God would help him defeat Goliath, the big Philistine. And when he went and fought Goliath, he won because he had faith on God. And you can see when he fought Goliath and won, 1 Samuel 17:43 through 51. And the second example is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they suffered persecution, and Nebuchadnezzar, he made this big statue, and he told all the people to bow down to it. But they did not bow down, because that would be like disobedience to God. But they had faith that God would protect them even if they would go to the furnace. They even said to Nebuchadnezzar, even if our God does not deliver us, we wanted to make it clear to you that we will not bow down to the statue. And they had faith, and when they went into the fire, they were 4 men. Nebuchadnezzar saw they were walking and unharmed. Then when he asked, come out, they come out, and they didn't even smell the smoke. And you can see that story in Daniel, the 3rd book of Daniel, 16 to 18. And the third one is Daniel. So he was close to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and this is one way he had faith. So some group of friends, they wanted to get rid of Daniel, so they made the King Darius sign a law that no man can worship any god or man except for King Darius. Daniel knew this law, yet he still prayed in the upstairs 3 times a day like usual. And he had faith that God would protect him when he went into the lion's den. And he did. And the next morning, after he was thrown into the lion's den, he ran to the lion's den, and they took away the stone. And King Darius asked if God was able to rescue him. He said, "Long live the king." And then they took him out. And then the guys who were trying to get rid of them, they threw those people into the den, and they died. The third one is the fourth example is Abraham. So he's considered the father of faith. So that's why I wanted to talk about him. So you can see his story like in Genesis 15:6, and in the New Testament, Romans 4:3, and Genesis 17. So there were 3 ways he had faith on God. The first one is when he was leaving his homeland. He didn't even know where he was going or anything, but he just obeyed God and had faith that God would lead him in the right way. The second one is when he was going to have a son at the age of 99. So you would think it was impossible to have like a son at the age of 99, but Abraham had faith that God would give him a son, and he did. And the third way he had faith was when he was sacrificing Isaac. So when he was at the mountain, he knew even if Isaac had died, the generation, like he would get like another son, and that would take on the generation or something. And at the last moment, the angel came and said, "Do not lay your hand on the boy." So those were the 3 ways he had faith. And the last one is Paul, the New Testament. So I'm just going to say 2 ways he had faith. The first one was the shipwreck. He knew that in the shipwreck, the storm, the ship would be wrecked, but all the people would be safe. And he had faith on God. And you can see that story in Acts 27, 1 through 44. The second one is Paul on the island of Malta, when the viper came and bit him, it's the same way he had faith. He had faith that God would protect him, so he just took it off. And you can see that story in Acts 28, 3-6, when the viper came and bit him. So the same way we should have faith on God. Now I would like to show you a little demo of how we can have faith on God. So the 5 examples that I just gave, so they all had problems. David, he had the problem of Goliath. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the persecution problem. Daniel had the same persecution problem. And Abraham, when he was going to sacrifice his son Isaac. And Paul in the shipwreck. So those are problems, and like problems in our everyday life, like financial problems, sickness or disease, and all these problems. Do you think you can put these nails on problems on this one nail?
No.
What does the Bible say? With God, all things are possible. So pretend this is God. We're putting all these problems on Him. So God could say, sometimes we don't do that because we sometimes may lean on our own understanding. But if you have faith on God that He will solve all your problems for you, then He will. So the only way to please God is by having faith in Him.
That's good. Very good.